Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Mysteries with the Mistresses. Tonight, we're exploring a phenomenon nearly everyone has experienced that strange feeling that someone is watching you. Have you ever looked up because you felt eyes on you, only to find someone staring back, or sometimes no one there at all? So, what causes that feeling? Is it psychological, biology, intuition, evolution, or something beyond what we currently understand? Tonight, we'll explore scientific explanations, psychological theories, physiological, I slaughtered that word, responses, and even paranormal interpretations. Did I lose you?
Well, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, our co host, Miss Nish, is out this evening, but have no fear. She'll be back next Sunday. So, Frederick here will be filling in for the co host here as a mistress.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah. So, we thought before we let everyone start calling in, we can kind of explore some of the things that I found on this particular subject, which I'm sure we can all agree we've been put in a position to feel watched, or maybe we are the watchers ourselves. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great. Sound
Okay.
good.
Well, I thought that I would first kind of go down the rabbit hole of things that would not be considered intuitive, things that would be more textbook to explain this whole phenomenon here. And if I mess up words, guys, I completely apologize. So, psychological explanations that I've noticed are called scopophobia. It's fear or anxiety of being watched or judged. The spotlight effect. We believe people notice us more than they actually do. Hypervigilance, a heightened state of awareness, often linked to stress or anxiety. Confirmation bias. We remember when we were right about being watched and forget when we weren't. Sensory triggers. Subtle, subtle cues like movement, sounds, shadows, lights, change can alert the brain unconsciously. Looking through this, it's called looking glass self. We imagine how others see us, shaping our self awareness. And the last is gaze detection, evolutionary theory, which means humans may have evolved sensitivity to being looked at as a survival mechanism. Any of that kind of resonate with you, Frederick?
Well, all of it does. All of it does. I don't have the depth of knowledge that you have gained or gotten into it as far, but yeah, I definitely understand everything you've listed there.
Well, I know that the hypervigilance I noticed while kind of going down this rabbit hole is something I do, and I'm just going to remind you the definition for hypervigilance is a heightened state of awareness often linked to stress and anxiety. And I would say that,
Wow.
the everyday world that we're in right now, stress and anxiety is heightened for all of us. So
Okay.
it's almost kind of going into something that could make you a little paranoid, because you are so stressed out. You're hyper aware of everything, even if it's really not there.
So you exist in a state of hypervigilance.
I would say that I do sometimes. I
Really?
would say that right now I do,
Okay.
due to just everyday stress. When I was a kid, I can assure you, I didn't care who was watching me, or nor was I really looking around to see if anyone was or is. And I find myself definitely doing that now. So
Interesting.
the thought is someone really watching me, or is it just my own stress and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
which is creating the effect? And then the other one was the spotlight effect, which I thought was interesting. It says we believe people notice us more than they actually do because people are really just doing what they normally do. They're doing the same thing as you. they're getting out of their car, they're going shopping, and they're focused on what it is that they're going in there to do. They're not, focused on the stain on your shirt like you think that they are because you spilt it 5 seconds before you got out of the car.
Right, right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you believe that you would follow that pattern? Do you believe that you do the spotlight effect?
I would say it's probably spotlight effect. Um, I assume people are noticing me. Um, well, I probably do assume noticing me because of where I
Hmm.
live.
I think we all do. I
At
think we all
least,
do to some extent.
yeah, yeah. And again, my sense of spotlight effect or sense of being observed, and not necessarily observed, but identified would be I would have to slice it on the geographic location and racial lines because there's not that many black people here. So for some reason, I have a sense that look at there is a African American male, and then they move on. I don't feel like I'm being watched or they're targeting me or they're following this following me with their eyes to see where I'm going. I just I assume I make the assumption that hey because often it does happen that way. Society in America has kind of made it a thing. But I have no absolute certainty that is exactly what's happening. I just kind of feel and believe that that's what's happening.
So, would you say that there's a fear or an anxiety of being noticed or watched or seen because you're black in a mostly white region?
Not fear and not fear and nor anxiety, just identification. You know, and because quite frankly, I do that myself. I don't need to watch a person, but I tend to will spot, someone of a different ethnicity, because quite frankly, it's rather rare, in this little town. It's not something you see often. If you see it every day, then yeah, it's just another person. But you tend to say, oh, there's a bit of a diversity there. It just I don't know why it is. It just kind of sticks out in the moment, and then you kind of move on.
Do you believe that that would fall under the category of confirmation bias, which is remember when we were right about being watched or seen and forget a time when we weren't? Like when
Well,
you lived in California, you kind of just blended in. And now over here, you're aware you're the only black person. So would you say that in some nature, it's a confirmation bias? Because when's the last time you think that you weren't noticed just because you were black?
well, I disagree a little bit because it's not a confirmation of the bias of being identified as based on race. It is just a inclination. It's just me. I don't know that I can measure that biasness based on me being, the one or two black people out of the 2,000 or more that are coming through town. So I don't want to say that it is that, um,
Could
because
it be an
again,
undertone of it though?
it could very well be.
Like, are
It
you
could be.
thinking about it every time you go out?
No, I am not. No, I
Okay.
did not. I go about my business and do whatever I'm doing. Now, well, in reverse, the juxtaposition of that, I do think about it, but it's such a low measurement of my day. You just kind of are aware when you're in a culturally, when you're not when there's a I don't want to say an imbalance as if there needs to be a balance of diversity, but it is something that you just kind of notice, in the periphery of your thoughts.
Right.
And at this point, we've been here for so long, it's just a known to me.
Right.
I probably, asked me that 9 months ago. I probably would anxiety, paranoia, and all types of reason for it. But at this point, it's just a part of my everyday life.
So, do you think it would fall under the category of looking glass self, which is we imagine how others see us, shaping our self awareness?
Well, that's interesting.
Like, automatically, well, I'm the only black guy here, so let me get out of this car and let's get inside.
Yeah,
And people being like, oh my gosh, there's a black guy. What is he doing here?
and again, that would be that would be hypothesizing about what they're thinking,
Right.
because they may not be thinking that. But it's
Absolutely.
hard. It's I don't know if it's the political environment that we live in, or that I'm way too deep into politics. Um, but I am not certain that the identification that you pick up when diversity is very low in your geographic area,
Right.
you know, because I think I'm seeing it, you know, at times. Because we live in a tourist community, so people are coming from everywhere, here to spend the week or the weekend or what have you, or on vacation. So I don't know where they're coming from. We get a lot. This is the South, from what I understand. So it they may very well make an identification, because of the absence of racial diversity, which is not a problem
Right.
much, because I don't care to change the lay the landscape or what have you. I'm not going down that path, but you would assume, because the greeting changes, or they'll look, because you know they could be looking at everyone the same way, but often you feel identified. Not that it's a negative thing or a positive thing, but just an identification.
Right.
You're identified. They look at you. Because hey, you are one of the five
Right.
out of the many.
Well, I definitely think for me, and this is just me saying, hey, I can identify at least one of these psychological explanations, and mine would definitely be and I keep slaughtering it, the scopophobia, which is the fear or the anxiety of being watched.
Mm-hmm.
The definition says watched or judged. I don't really care about the judge part, but I have always had a tendency to not want to be seen, which also goes into me not wanting my pictures taken or being in videos or people knowing what I'm doing on social media, because I'm just, I mean, as dramatic as of a person as I am, I'm also very private as well. So it's a very back and forth with me on both of those things. I don't mind having red hair and a cute outfit on, but at the same time, I don't want anyone to look at me either. I'm just doing it because I like it. I know it's ridiculous, right? Like it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, I hear you.
So I'm just kind of trying to identify, with one of those. If I was to say, could I see myself in one of those? Yes, I actually could see myself dipping my toe in most of those, to be honest with you.
Interesting. Now, if I may, I do. Again, I'm just going with identification. It's the your psychological breakdown and titles, as accurate as they are, I'm not that familiar.
Right.
But when we're out as a couple, and again, it could be any one of those that you have named thus far. I just have to say identified, because I don't know under which umbrella of those psychological makeups it'll fall under.
Right.
When we're out together, yeah, I do. I strongly do feel that we are identified, or looked at, or scoped out, or something to that effect. Even if it the scope. Oh, yeah, I've got that one butchered up as well. Scope pathology.
What's crazy for me is in these areas, sometimes I'm like, I think I go right to it. I'm like, well, everybody's identifying the fact that we're an interracial couple.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as we go to a city, I could, it's not even on my frontal lobe. Like we just kind of blend in with the crowd.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of interesting?
Well, yes, yeah, to a certain extent, because I don't think. Well, we did go to St. Louis, and I did feel blended in, but I do not think that you and I have been to a city. Well, I guess Hot Springs kind of felt that way a little bit, but we have not had the opportunity to go to a city where I felt that we just blended in that well, because we are functioning mostly on this part of the country.
Well, can we both also say that we observe others when they are in our presence, and we are very much aware that we make some people uncomfortable?
Yes, I can agree with you there.
Okay.
In this day and age, 2026.
Right, but the point is, we see we are making people uncomfortable because we are, an interracial couple in this area.
Yeah.
Not that it's not the thing that keeps us up at night, but
Not at all.
I think that we would both say that we keep our PDA under control to a certain extent, because we already know we're making people uncomfortable just being who we are.
Yeah.
walking in the room, right?
Yeah. And there are those people that want to assess, measure age differences, the racial polarity therein. As we go about, we swim often, we go out to eat, when we do.
Hmm.
So people are nosy. They're human beings. I'm nosy as well, and they do the follow gaze, or whatever that is. I do recognize that. I do recognize it a little bit. Now their thought process, I don't know what's going on in their mind. Do they
Right.
not care, or are they enraged? Who
Right.
knows? I do not know how far it goes, but yeah, I
But I would
definitely
say
picked
that
it up.
this is underneath the category of being watched.
Absolutely.
We're well aware of it because
Yeah.
we in our own way we know in this region we are being watched.
Yeah.
Just like when you picked up Nevaeh from work,
Yeah.
you mentioned that there was someone that was just really almost acting as if you were some kind of creep picking Nevaeh up from work. Like, what's going on with this age difference, and why is
Right.
she getting in the vehicle with this black man? And it was very obvious.
You will.
He was not hiding the fact that he was observing you in that moment.
I agree, because you will always encounter. Again, it's a tourist town, so people are from everywhere. You do not know where they're from, but there are always those few people that feel, they're the police, or they're the social police, or they need to be extra observant just in case,
Right.
where their permission to do so, or obligation to be unduly protective over any certain thing, has been pushed. That boundary has been pushed,
Hmm.
and you do get that. I do get that. In fact, I get that the few times I've been out with Memphis as well.
Right.
People they feel the need to
What is this black man
observe,
doing with this
yeah,
little? Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
in case, their sense of security and sense of authority clearly has crossed the bounds. Now I've never had anyone say anything or do anything, but there is an
Because we
obvious
live in a world where
tell.
no one really does anything. They just like to get online and type. I'm just
Well,
messing. Now, Sheila pointed out right here, it says Ryan and I get that same look because of our 13-year age difference.
hmm
Yeah, I see
yeah.
that because we've got what, 16 years age difference.
14, Alicia. Elizabeth.
I'm supposed to be using my alter ego. Okay. I'm Elizabeth. I am not Alicia. And you're the tech guy. You're not my husband. So yeah, Sheila, we get that. And I'm sure my aunt's on here as well. And she had an age gap. So again, that whole thing, I mean, it kind of goes underneath this category to some degree. And do we really care what they're thinking? No.
No.
Does
Yeah.
it in some way make us notice or be aware of them noticing us? Absolutely. Absolutely. It definitely does. So, well, the next thing here is super sorry, guys, for slaughtering these words. It's called the physiological explanation, which is your PNS, and it's your peripheral nervous system. It connects your brain and your body. It can trigger physical responses before consciousness awareness, which is things like goosebumps, tingling, increased heart rate, muscle tension. Sometimes your body reacts before your mind understands why, which would be that gaze detection, which is the evolutionary theory. Humans may have evolved sensitivity to being looked at as a survival mechanism. So, what do you think about that?
Now, see, that's the one that interests me quite a bit. And now, I will give you this. What we're getting from that is a scientific explanation. It is a survival instinct to know that if you're being hunted, how your eyes work, and when you're being looked at as a safety measurement. And I think women have it at an even heightened level because they've fallen victim to predatory men, as well as going back to running from animals and what have you.
Right.
But I absolutely believe there is something beyond that. I think that there is more than just the nervous system. Again, forgive me because I don't have the word, I don't have it in front of me, but I did do a little bit of studying on that.
Right.
I have always felt that there is a supernatural, there is a spiritual connection to when you're being looked at and when you're being under threat, because there's two perspectives. One, you're not always under threat when you're being looked at. So if someone has an animosity or a danger will towards you, yes, you know it. You can pick it up. Apparently, your nervous system knows before your brain does. But that's not always the case, because so often, and I'm gonna play this by gender. Women are looked at because men look at women, and they'll look longer than they should have. The woman knows that she's being looked at. She's
Right.
not under threat. There is no danger there. She's just being observed, or goggled or googled over, or what have you. The women still know. They're still able to pick that up. And I wanted to delve a little more into that. And what is your perspective on that, Elizabeth?
I actually think that obviously we've evolved from, something. And I think that, we're more comfortable in the era that we're in now where we weren't as comfortable, some couple hundred years ago. I think that we were capable to sense things like animals. And I think through the everyday humdrum, like getting a job, having a phone, different things has pretty much divided us from that sixth sense, if you will, to some degree. I believe that it's definitely an animal instinct in us, um, that's aware of someone else being aware of us or being watched or whatever. So yeah, I
Right.
do. I think that we are connected to the animal kingdom in some way. And why wouldn't we have that
Yeah.
instinct in us to be observant of our surroundings and to know when someone's going to attack
Right. I
or
agree. I
kill?
agree. Well,
You know,
from what I watched with my YouTube studies, this goes back 2,000 years. So it is inherent. It is a part of our. It's a part of us. It's by design that it's there. But do you believe, or do you have any input on? Do you think that it's also beyond just the scientific, your nerve system? Do you think that there is a spiritual aspect to you being looked at, and you're known? Are there angels that look over you? Do you have some sort of ESP, addendum as well to it, to inform you that, hey, you're being looked at? Because from what I understood, what I've seen thus far from my YouTube degree on the subject, is it's a safety measure.
mhm.
That's as far as YouTube has taken it. It's only for safety, so that you are aware when you're being looked at. But when you're looking the other way, um,
So you believe that it's the PNS,
I
the
believe that
peripheral
it's
nervous
I
system?
believe that it's more than that. I believe that there is an ESP, something in the brain that says, not only are you being looked at, but even if you're being thought about,
Agreed.
when someone's talking about you, you kind of, sort of, it's not a perfect exact science, but I didn't know about the PNS part, the educated portion of which you have brought before us, but I've always thought that, before we studied this for this broadcast, I've always thought that it was an ESP type thing,
So
a supernatural
how do you
type thing.
separate the PNS from the ESP? Those are the two different things. And would you consider the ESP a paranormal perspective?
I think that there is. I really do think that there is. Just the same way, your ears get hot when someone's talking about you, um, in a whole different, state, from somewhere else. You just kind of know, like, I think someone's talking about me, or that chill when you get that someone stepped over your grave thing, that could also be someone's talking about you or thinking about you. I do feel there is an extra sensory perception with being looked at, as well as the nervous system, um, which is how science explains it. Now I'm going to step out into the water here and say science will explain something that could be extrasensory, could be spiritual, because science has to put a logic behind the idea of it. It could be all ESP. It could be just that we are further connected, via our brainwaves, to know when we're looked at, especially when you're looking the other way, because that you're being looked at. Um, yeah, and again, they're the two aspects. If you're being looked at and you're looking at something, let's go back 2,000 years ago. Where it developed because animals were bigger and we lived a little more in the wild. So you had to be on your toes with your eyes and know when you're being looked at, because you're looking, they're looking, and you're being looked at. So I understand the science to why they say what it is, but I will not alleviate the fact that there has to be an extra. It has to be a spiritual thing. It has to be something that has been endowed into us. That is, and I'm going to use a word here, radiographic. for lack of a better explanation, you know, because when you're being talked about, you can feel it. It's
Right.
it's like your dreams, it's
Right.
it's not just you. I will agree the science portion of it is a solidifying factor of it, but I will not let go that, hey, this is probably a little beyond just tigers chasing us down in the jungle, and we still have that because tigers haven't chased us down in the jungle in a very, very long time.
I believe it's a little bit of both.
I
I
agree. That's
truly
what I'm
do. I
saying.
truly do.
Mm.
And so on the paranormal perspective,
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand when I was researching this, they call this a scopithesia,
Okay.
the claimed ability to sense when someone is watching you without known sensory input.
Mm-hmm.
While science explains this through perception and psychology, some propose it's psychic awareness,
Mm-hmm.
energy sensitivity, spiritual presence, intuition beyond senses, and it's definitely a debated and unresolved topic at this point.
That's exactly what I was
It's
talking about.
it's definitely a back and forth of both. And I went ahead, and because we are so partial to both, you know, psychological and paranormal, intuitive, if you will, there were some test studies actually done on this. Funny enough, this is actually one of those things that we keep doing tests on because there's not enough research done on this. They've been trying to research this whole being watched thing
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time, and it's an ongoing study because they haven't quite narrowed it down entirely.
Understood.
So there was a couple of experiments done, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to let you know about a couple of these.
So,
So the research is called, and here's some titles for it. It's called the core staring experiment. One experiment investigates the sense of being stared at, and it's got a reported test result. So it says researchers found that more people turned around during the 1 minute periods when they were actually being watched than during the periods when no one was looking. They reported that the difference was statistically significant, suggesting it was likely due to the chance of being alone. So, what they're saying is when they were doing this study, they invited these people in and they were going up a stairs, and on the backside, you didn't realize that there was like a mirror wall there. And this is how they tested these people. And each person that was in there picked a person, and they watched them and did
mm-hmm.
these test results, and then they also did not watch them and they did these results here. And they noticed that if you came with a friend, you were less likely to notice that you were being looked at, and
Okay.
those that walked in and came in by themselves to this experiment, which they didn't know they were going to an experiment, they just thought they were going into like a studio to do something.
Right.
So they were literally just standing in line, and so they noticed that the person that was by themselves was more highly aware of what was going on.
Okay.
It says that the researchers emphasized that this was only an initial experiment and that the findings would need to be replicated many more times before drawing a strong conclusion. Rather than claiming the mystery had been solved, they've encouraged others to repeat the experiment and gather their own evidence.
Okay.
So basically, there is just not enough research done on this, and there's a few people that are still doing ongoing research on this, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that it would be kind of interesting to do an experiment in the future ourselves. We don't have to be creepy about it, but maybe even just watching the cameras at the store.
Yeah.
Would people feel us? Do the vendors feel us watching them? Do the customers feel us watching them through that camera lens as they're walking in?
Mhm.
Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, and I think you would either one, again, the science, they have a bit of a begrudgance against, well, oh, no, let me. Okay. I'm sorry, I had to plug in my computer. Um, you have two legs of it. You've got absolute science, which deals in, absolute logic of hypothesis, and then you've got your extrasensory. So those two legs of it, I think, I don't know that they are um I don't know if they merge well,
Okay.
because let's hypothesize for a minute. You We'll give a mall in a certain area will have up to 200 people. But if you are, and that's 200 people looking all around. But if you are looking at someone at a distance, that person knows. You feel it. And if you do feel it and you're dialed in, and you're not distracted by all the things for sale around you, you will turn around
Mm-hmm.
and see where those eyes are coming from, be it threat or be it admiration. um and that is where, I don't know if it's spiritual, I don't know if it's ESP, I don't know if it's radiological. you know you just know. And I don't know that you can explain it all away just through science. And again, I hear that they've done some great tests, they've done a lot of tests, because,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still testing, because who knows, maybe the scientists are omitting the spiritual aspect of it.
Right.
That is
I
a
think that the
god.
scientists themselves believe in both. And I
Well,
think that they're just trying to get I think I've noticed, like, when I was watching this, a lot of the scientists do believe. They're the
mhm,
skeptic
the
just as much as
skeptic,
they
yeah.
are the believer.
I agree.
Which is why they're doing the studies, because if it wasn't worth studying, they wouldn't do it. If there wasn't something there that made them low key believe that
Hmm.
this could be a sixth sense,
Right.
I don't think that they would try to dismiss it so much.
I think you're right. I think the phenomena is so, it's so outstanding. It's such a human periphery that it requires a greater depth,
Right.
because it's also rather intangible too. It's not something you can say for certain without the applied science that we have discussed earlier. But again, it is somewhat intangible. They don't have their finger fully on it, so they keep doing studies.
So another study that was done was it says right here, in another experiment, participants had sensors placed on their palms to measure the unconscious nervous system and responses, a lot like a lie detector test.
Hmm.
And it says at random times a person watched them via closed circuit on the television. So this was a television screen type experiment,
Hmm.
and the participants did not know when they were being observed, but was aware that they were going to be observed at some time. So it says some researchers reported an increase in the psychological response during the watching periods, and some suggested possible unconsciousness awareness, though the findings still do remain controversial and debated.
Yeah.
So they even went as far as to put these on your sensories just to kind of measure those as
Yeah.
well. And here we are again. There still needs to be a lot more research done on this.
Yeah, and that's one thing. When you were doing your studying and taking your notes and what have you, they did say that your nervous system knows before your conscious mind knows.
Hmm.
You know, and what are the gradients? What else does your nervous system? And again, they're using nervous system. I'm using spirituality or what radiological. But what other tools, I guess, for lack of a better term, does your nervous system know before your conscious mind knows? And then at what point are you informed, hey, something's being, I'm dialed into something. Now I'm going to let, the person know, um, something is up,
Right.
whatever that is. Again, we were talking about the gaze thing here, but there is something else there as well, and I
Right.
I can't let that go. That in my to me, I would assume that it's ESP ahead of safety, tigers, and us running from tigers 2,000 years ago. I think we're endowed with that ability because we need it. It's something that was just given to us by design.
Okay. Well, I wanted to go over one more observation here before we start letting some callers maybe kind of share some of their experiences. So, there also was a study done with people that were actually professional, like artists who draw humans, people that who have a living people watching, like people that watch the cameras at night in a mall, or so in one observation it says that an art that it basically states, and this is just one specific artist that they had interviewed, and she stated that um When quietly observing someone for long periods of time, she noticed that if she was looking into their eyes and stuff, they kind of shifted as she was drawing them. So they shift posture when they start to feel a little uncomfortable, or if they've been being stared at for long periods of time.
Mhm.
They start to touch their head or their face, which is almost like a habit of saying, okay, yeah, I'm noticing being noticed it, or I'm being stared at. I've been stared at by this artist for this very long period of time. It says they eventually they turn around and they make eye contact. So basically, the artists were observing that draw, or use these models, after a certain period of time, they do start to feel uncomfortable. And these are
Mhm.
just professional people watchers because they're an artist.
Mhm.
So, that's why I think that connection with your model is very important, due to the fact that after a while, certain people do feel uncomfortable being watched. Even if they signed up for it, something these artists claim they started to shift.
Right.
And that's what the importance of your model is. Your model is very important because it's got to be someone that's relaxed at being stared at.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It really does. That's an interesting phenomenon. It
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Yep.
You know, what's another interesting phenomenon, and I think this is, kind of a side conversation to what we're having. People whom, well, I think it would be a three part. People who want to go through society and not be seen. They just want to go about their day unnoticed. They don't want to be the gaze. They don't want to be seen. And then there are those people that do. They insist on being seen. And there's another one. Shoot, I can't think of the third one. It slips my mind because there were three parts to that. Well, I wonder therein what is the measurement of the gaze, and do they attract the attention to which they seek, or omit it by their actions, their dress, their energy.
Right.
Let's go there, because you can dress, you can wear whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you wear to be seen. I guess that would be the third part of that. People who dress to be seen. you
Right.
know so let's talk about three parts of that. People who just, because that's the three parts I was looking for. People who desire attention and do not desire attention, they could wear the same outfit. And then there's the third person, male or female, like, they get gussied up. The guy wears a suit, the lady dresses in whatever she sees fit, because they seek the attention as they're going about their day. How does that fit into, you've got the scientific description of the scopiopathic thing.
Right.
Do they are they receiving what they seek, or does that not matter?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Because me personally, I just like to go through my day. I don't necessarily require attention. I don't really like it. I'm a more I like the more anonymity as I'm going about. Cuckoo clock saying we're cuckoo. um, I wonder, how does that fit in your in your studies recently? What do you think of it? And do you think that those that are seeking that, if you want to just slide through town and hit your A's and B's, or you've got to run to the store, unnoticed, do you think that because they want to go unnoticed, they do? And do you think those that seek, more attention receive it? What do you think about that?
Well, the very first thing that comes to my mind is an interview that I watched with Marilyn Monroe, and she explained how there was Marilyn Monroe and there was Norma Jean, and
Mm-hmm.
she could go anywhere and she could just be Norma Jean. But if she wanted to flip into Marilyn, she would notice, and she would show her friends this whole thing. She would say, here I am just low key being Norma Jean. Do you want to see something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
And they would be like, yeah. And she could flip right into Marilyn
There
Monroe.
you
And
go.
there she got her audience. So instantly, I can say for myself, I identified with that statement,
Mm-hmm.
because there are days that I don't want to be noticed, and there's days that I don't mind being noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it, truthfully, without sounding conceited, it's inevitable for me. But I also understand that I'm a unique looking person. I've got red hair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing a dramatic dress.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'm not doing it to get the attention. I'm not doing it to impress anyone.
Mhm.
I'm doing it because I like the way I feel looking like that.
Understood.
But could that be misunderstood? Absolutely, I do. And there's days where, I can flip on my Marilyn Monroe energy
Right.
and say, hey, I got to make some sales today, so let's kind of amp up the energy in here.
Mhm.
And I am very much aware of it, and I can preset it or turn it off just as quickly. And it's crazy because it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. So it's kind of like a volume. It's like a dial and a volume. Now, let me do you feel, that when you want to be a little more anonymous because you're running to the grocery store or what have you, and you turn down the energy, what have you, do you feel that works, or is it just
Yes.
in your mind?
Yes, I think it does work.
It does work. Okay.
But then there's some times that I still get caught off guard, and it's still like a lingering thing. Again, we both know I dress to the nines if we're going out. Lipstick's done, cute heels, my nails are done, my outfit, my hair's, I
Fix,
got the
yeah.
liner on. But if I decide to be a little casual and lazy, I won't probably put that eyeliner on, and I might not wear a heel. I might switch it to a flat.
Right.
Then I may even downsize, but wear a dramatic top, but wear something more low key for shorts.
Okay.
So yes, but out of all these theories, my favorite is the evolutionary theory. And it says one theory suggests that this ability may have helped our ancestors survive. If an animal could sense that a predator was watching before being seen, the extra moment of awareness could mean the difference between life and death.
Right.
I definitely lean a lot towards the evolutionary theory. As
Okay.
much as I want to go with all these scientific things, I think we are an animal. I think we have these instincts in us to survive. And does that kind of go into the PNS? I think it does. I think that we're made up of both. I think that we're made up of both of these options, but I definitely lean a lot more towards that evolutionary theory.
Well, I'm going to kick this back to you, because if you believe that it's evolutionary, then that would be absolute science based on, that's not even hypothesizing, that is
Right.
the scientific effect. And you are thereby somewhat, and I'm not accusing you or anything, or just kind of jousting a little here, a bit of verbalistic, calisthenics here. You would be omitting that there is a ESP, a spiritual thing to it.
I guess that I would. I
Oh,
guess I
okay.
guess in some way I do believe it's a survival thing.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Wow.
But here we go. I still kind of believe a little bit of the ESP.
Yeah.
I
See.
think just like the scientist, is there not some way that they're both scrambled up together in some kind of way? Could it not be that there's a little bit of both? Do you think you have to swing one way in this conclusion here, in this whole perspective? Do you think you have to lean on just one side of the spectrum here?
Well, I do. I think
Okay.
it's ESP. I think it's an endowment by our creators. I think some people have it at a greater level, a greater detail, a little more clear than others. But I think that we all have it. Obviously, there's just too many people that speak of it. But I think it's just one of our gifts that we have as a human being to know. And you don't have to forgive me, but I think science applies, a nervous system, and, lions chasing us through the jungle and what have you. But again, that's 3,000 years ago. And our ESP in that arena is as strong as it ever has been. And let's just not assuage the fact that women know when they're being looked at for safety. It's a spiritual thing, in my opinion.
Right.
And let's go ahead and addendum this to it. Often when women are in the presence of a guy and you're face to face in communication, you can tell. You may ignore it, but you can tell when someone has ill will, even when they're all smiles.
Most definitely.
That's now, how do you explain that other than
body language?
Okay, see, you're going right to science.
I'm a body language person from the get-go, and that would probably be a lot to do with my bank background, because the moment someone walks through that bank, you're supposed to be watching and being able to predict everything that they're going to do before they do it, because you're at risk the entire time of being robbed.
Okay.
So you almost have to think ahead.
Mhm.
But can I be honest with you? This also comes from working in sales in the middle of the mall and someone walking by and you finding that way to kick that Marilyn Monroe shine on and
Mhm.
it lure that customer right there that makes them believe, hey, she knows what she's talking about. Her energy is really high. How can I say no to her? Like there's so many different things are going on there. So it almost works in sales as well. And I also believe that bartenders have that ability as well. You can read a room the moment you walk in if you're paying attention, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm the watcher. Now I'm the one watching you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because I'm aware that I'm observing and watching. I
Right.
think sometimes it does make me be aware that other people or know how to read people watching me because I am a watcher myself. I
Okay.
love to people watch.
Right.
It's probably one of my favorite things to do. And I'm not coming from any perspective of judging you. I just love watching people being human with other humans.
Okay.
So I myself, as much as I'm a hypocrite
Hmm.
because I do not like to be watched or stared at, but I dang sure like to be a watcher, but I'm
Yeah.
not judging. I'm just people watching,
Right. Right.
chilling
Right.
and vibing, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things, someone I'll put it in the notes here because I'm going to slaughter his name, but his name is Rupert Sheldrake's research, or I'm sorry. So it's called the Rupert Sheldrake's research. He is a British biologist, and he became interested in whether people can actually sense what they're, when they're being watched. His question wasn't, can people see through walls? His question was, does focused attention affect another person in ways we don't yet understand?
Hmm.
And he wrote a book. I think it said it was 7 ways to change the world, and it's just something I myself would love to read, um, because I'm interested to see. Now he's the one that tested the behind the glass when people were invited to this event, and then he, was the one that was watching from the other side.
Okay.
So, again, his question was, can people see through walls?
Hmm.
His question was, does focused attention affect another person in ways we don't yet understand?
Right.
Is our focused attention to someone and how they perceive it different due to what? Being watched in a negative light? The animal instincts that we were talking about. I just feel like the way that we are being looked at also is
Yeah.
picked up in different ways as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this guy really goes down the rabbit hole, and I'll make sure to put it in the comments on his whole theory on this. But he even stated there's not enough research done on this. This is definitely something we keep kind of overlooking, but it's something that every single person on earth can agree on. We've
Right.
all been had that feeling of being watched.
I'll give you. I'll get. I'll. You're definitely on with that. That sounds like a fantastic book. I'd love to read that as well. If I can go back a little bit, um, and I just feel that it is a different channel of the same form of ESP.
Right.
Um, you know when you, well, you know when you're when you're in the presence of someone that has ill intent. Do you act upon knowing that? Because often a lot of people do and a lot of people don't. And as and the touch on the subject of reading a room, I have myself, to pat myself on the shoulder, I have an innate ability to easily read a person. I can read a room. um, I've just always had that myself. Is it? I can read a room and a person before they begin to speak. And I guess that's body language, like you said at the
Mm-hmm.
bank.
Yep.
I've never worked in banking, and I've never been taught that. Hey, be aware, have all your sensors open, so that you know who and what you're dealing with. But I've always had an inclination to read a room and or a person, quite quickly, and then I will adjust how I deal with that person.
Okay.
But you know, we just can't forego the fact that not only are we in touch with an ESP, with someone looking at us, but that same ESP will tell you if you're sitting with someone who's putting on a false front, or who has earnest emotions towards you, or honest emotions towards you, or liar, or just quite frankly dangerous. That's not said. The person doesn't walk into a room and says, I have ill intent towards you. You just know,
Right.
and I would imagine that some people know more than others, and others will also ignore that same, signal, even at face with them.
Well, I wanted to shift the focus into the direction of letting some people call here. But before I get into that, I just want to bring up an example. My cat, Sabrina, okay, has a particular way she likes to use the restroom. And she's an animal, but I'm going to tell you right now that cat will not look me in the eyes and go to her litter box. She's private about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she's an animal. So explain that.
Animals have personal.
Explain why my cat, who should not give two craps about anybody staring at her going to her litter box, won't even go over there if she knows you're staring at her.
I think animals have
now she's an animal, okay?
Right,
so
right.
she's got the whole evolutionary theory going on because she's an animal. She can sense when she's in danger, but then there's a human emotion being involved there.
Well,
being watched, like she's poop shy.
Right. Okay. Well,
And she's an animal. Why does she care?
I think animals have a diversity of emotions, knowledge, and intelligence as humans do. I really do. I really, really believe that. They're not all the same, and they're not just then it's not a monolith, whereas this is only what they do,
I just wanted to hear what you were going to say to it because the whole time we've been discussing this and this whole week, it's been one of those stupid ass things. Or dang it, I made it freaking 53 minutes. I'm proud of myself because last time I did it in 43.
You're getting better, baby.
So this is me. I'm asking the audience here. So audience, have you ever felt someone watching you before turning around? Was someone actually there? Have you ever felt this when completely alone? Do animals sense being watched too? Have you ever ignored that feeling and regretted it? Was it instinct, anxiety, coincidence, or something else? The lines are open. Our number is 918-319-9046. We definitely would love to have some audience involvement if anyone's feeling a little froggy.
You can also leave your comment in the comment section if you are unable to call or too shy to do so.
Yeah, but we're not watching you, so get on the phone.
Hey,
I mean, this is definitely not the spotlight effect here. I'm not trying to brush this off on people, but I definitely think that we could all say, hey, I live in a city. I know my vehicle's in this parking garage connected to my apartment. And as you're getting to your vehicle and you're leaving the elevator, I mean, are you as a female already on guard? Are you already oh my gosh, someone's watching me, someone's about to come out of the corner? I feel like everyone's in their own way. I think Meemaw used an example earlier of, people getting older and having limited means to get around. Does a handicapped person sense this in a different way, or do they think everyone's oh, they can't hardly get around? Our everyone must be watching me, or for me, it's dang it, I just spilt this coffee on my shirt. And now everybody's staring at my
stain on my shirt.
Stain on my shirt. They probably think I'm disgusting and they think I'm poor and I probably got cockroaches. Oh, whoops.
That's
Is that hypertension thing I told you about?
That's all outside the scope. It's the coffee stain. That's a prejudgment.
I got some fucking problems, guys.
Dang
it. And I used the big one this time. I used the F word. God, I'm never going to get sponsors. So here we go. The psychological part is the scopophobia, which is the fear of the anxiety of being watched or stared at. Guilty as charged.
Oh, man.
Definitely oh my God. And you can ask, I wish Neve would get on here. She'd call me out because she says that as soon as I get out, I'm trying not to laugh. She will call me out, Mom, why is it that as soon as you get out of the vehicle, you immediately start looking around to see if people's looking at you? See, I got real problems.
Well, you know what? Let me throw this into the pot of gumbo to which we are brewing this evening.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, no, it does.
Gumbo. But real gumbo.
Does that same scopophobia How does that apply to being looked at by a ghost or something supernatural, something that is not within this realm, and your hair stands up on the back of your neck, but you don't know why? Does that allay in any way? Do you guys feel? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm just kind of, tossing that ball out there. Does that exist? Is that a possibility? Is that in the realm at all? That's, you're in a room, you're in an unknown place, or in an old place, or in a park, or you just happen to be walking through a cemetery, and which would, I'll be honest with you, the juxtaposition is, do ghosts see anyway? So let's say the ghost can see and they're looking at you. Does your scope of, we are butchering this word to death, your does your ESP go off the same?
I'm kind of conceited. Um, so I do think I get noticed by the ghosties, and I think I do get noticed by the peoples. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I actually have a fear of both.
Wow.
That's how conceited I am, though. I really need to get over myself, to be honest with you. Because, like, why is everybody staring at me, 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 me? Why is it all about me? I'm being definitely a Marsha here.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I've constantly my entire life walked in both spectrums, both in the spiritual realm and both in the, the everyday earth realm here.
Yeah.
So I do believe I get acknowledged and seen by both. I guess I am a little bit more comfortable with the ghosts looking at me, though,
Right.
because they like bored and stuff.
Okay.
I'm just joking, but no, I mean, but no, I definitely notice that I'm being noticed by both, but and they both feel about the same.
Yeah.
The fear of it, the fear of both of it, and the next question is, if it is paranormal, say it is a ghost or whatever it may be, why is it looking at me?
Good question.
What
What
is it
is the
about
intent?
me that's what is it about me that's got your focus?
Right. What is the intent behind, a spirit that's watching you? Who is the spirit? What is their intention behind it? If they are looking at you, apparently they are, from what you've just stated. And how often does it happen?
But I don't have proof.
No one has proof.
No, I
No
don't
one
have
has
any
proof.
proof.
Yeah.
I don't have proof. Now I do have a major fear also of looking out the window and seeing another set of eyes lock eyes with my eyes, and that has happened to me before, and it was just a real person, outside, um probably walking by, or a friend coming in, but that fear of saying, when I look out this window,
Inadvertently flashing
is
a neighbor.
someone.
That happens.
Oh my god.
Inadvertently, accidentally. Yeah. That it
Wow.
happens.
It flashing and not thinking ahead of time is different subject here,
Yeah.
you know. But again, to the paranormal part is, what is it about me that's making you observe, or
Hmm.
do I even really matter? Am I just at the right place at the right time?
Yeah.
So
What was an interesting topic you covered briefly was the Marilyn Monroe, Norman Jean, turning up, the brightness of the persona, or switching, I
mhm.
should say.
Yep.
That's actually really cool.
I would
That's
say
that's
that
an
most celebrities
interesting
do
topic.
that, wouldn't you?
I think that I
I
think
think that
that
every celebrity would understand that statement to
I
some
think they're
degree.
celebrities because they have a control over that.
Yeah, there you go. That's
They
crazy.
have a direct ability, a direct intent to do that. I personally don't have that ability. I do not believe that I do whatsoever. But you said that you can do that as you see fit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's actually
When
really cool.
on days when I feel like socializing,
Hmm. Right.
because there's
That's
some days I don't.
right. Understandable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Totally. Because I don't like socializing at all. So I can't do Norma Jean and Marilyn Monroe or any variant thereof.
You haven't really missed anything.
Really?
No.
Well, hell.
Well, I believe that our 4th of July has worn everyone out on hotline calls.
Mhm.
So if you're okay with it, I'm going to conclude on some closing thoughts here. And
By all means.
Close this little window here. One thing is certain, across cultures and throughout history, people have described the same mysterious feeling. Whether it's the subconscious awareness, nervous system, response, or something we don't yet understand, the mystery remains. Thank you for joining us tonight, for sharing your stories, which no one did, but that's okay because it's 4th of July weekend, and for stepping into the unknown with us. Until next time, stay curious, and if you suddenly feel someone watching you, perhaps it's worth looking over your shoulder.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm not very good at zippers. But maybe if I had some help.
I'll help you. I am an expert.